is through an instrument that has been tuned to bring us that perfection of voice. This is a human being. The mystery is all about waking people up. And there are certain things that you don't understand because you're dead. If you were living, you would know that you have a voice. You would know what that means. Not just that you can say, oh, it's my right to speech and all of that hoo-ha. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the mechanics of the universe that are being taught to people in religious instruction that uses drugs, sexuality, music to create the death and life that is the cosmos. And when I say cosmos, I mean the organization of the universe, right? The big prophecy of the apocalyptic world is the return of that feminine power, that lady of Babylon, simply because she is the mystery. You were asking about whether bodies can become mechanisms for producing drugs and whether they looked at it that way. And that was a perfect illustration, Bruno, of the differences between us and them. Because that's a silly question to them. Are you serious? What do you think milk is? What do you think milk is? Right? It's absurd that you don't understand that your own body was meant, in this case, to produce a specific substance that is itself a medicine. You are the generator of the medicine. So,
and at the same time, what you're saying, because that's the perfect example you just gave. Like, yeah, what do you think is milk? Of course, it's coming from a body that is making a lot of chemical reactions at some point and is creating something that it will have an effect in another human being. But the thing that I wanted to ask you, with seems like the text is also telling that they were even able to actually manipulate a bit of that, like to take this human being, and because the milk will happen, like you're like a woman becomes a mother, or she's able to do it at a certain age. It's like embedded in the DNA, or I don't know, but the capability of go and actually interfere with that for a specific aim, or for a specific right, or for a specific medicine. I'm sure it was about that. That's what also is absolutely, I guess that's the question, like how they were able to do this. This is what the text is saying to us.
we sustain our own immortality with the ambrosia that we Christ. Right? Aphrodite is Aphrodite because of the ambrosia. Right? From the very beginning, that is a body product, the ambrosia. It flows in the veins of the gods. When you nurse from Demeter, the goddess, that milk that you are taking is divine. It is going to purge your corruption and to open up your capacity, your divine capacity. That's why people who are born again through initiation say, damn, I wish this would have happened years before. Because
Yeah,
it
we have
opens up.
very prominent figures, like even in Roman times, we're
Correct.
talking about that. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. This process of initiation is a piece of life that is necessary for you to live to your full capacity. Without it, you're not capacitated. You're not in a place where you can exercise that divinity. And what's absolutely glorious is there's a formula for all this, and it has to be followed a specific way. And the people who are involved in doing it are saying, look, you can take someone's milk and you can fine tune it in order to bring back the divinity, in order to burn off that child's mortality. It's going to come through that milk. And the doctors are talking about different types of milk and what these different types. Now, milk is not the only product, right?
Mhm.
What about seed? What about seed, right? What does milk do, right? It builds the flesh, right? It thickens, it congeals, it builds the flesh. What does that seed do? That seed implants fire, right? If you don't implant the fire in your child, you're not going to be able to milk her in the future.
But I'm
So
sorry,
that's
what?
why we have,
Oh,
right? You look at the figures who are involved in the creation of these oracles. And it's everybody that comes down to in the classics, 5th century Greece, when they are developing democracy. It's everything that has been worked on up to that point by all the famous people, all the people that we know about because we write things down about them, like Solon and stuff like that. There is an inseparable nature to the development of freedom and liberty in the Mediterranean world and the operation of the mystery, the creation of the oracle or the oracular state, that bridge, that biological act that all of us should do, but we don't.
mhm.
And in not doing so, we reject the gift and we receive the nemesis instead. You want that instead? Then become a bunch of pedos, right? Become a bunch of pedos. Why can I say that with such confidence? Because they are putting the virgin on the hill. They are protecting the virgin as inviolable. It's only at that point that their
Parthenon.
religions can create this umbrella to shield the rays of radiation bombarding us and create the world of a protected virgin. You need that virgin's protection in order to operate the mystery. Athena herself is so wrapped up with the mystery that she is feeding the seed of God her own ambrosial blood that is making him the immortal half snake, half dude. So the whole echidnaic priesthood of the virgin viper, remember, she's the Bronze Age woman oracle who raped Heracles, right?
Yeah, we talked about that last time. I've seen
All
the
of these
this is the
rapes, all
snakey you're talking about
yes, and all
with
of
the
these,
snake legs.
yes, no, she doesn't have snake legs.
Not she,
Legs.
but
She's
the
half
king.
virgin, half viper,
I know.
right?
The
So
king.
this is that Bronze Age world that we're not perceiving,
Mhm.
that is influencing. You say one of your question, your great question at the beginning was, how do they know all this stuff? Right? Look at what we have. We have the preservation of a female figure who is ruling through the use of narcotics, through the use of drugs, psychotropics that are heavy, 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 right? And we have a record of rapes throughout the Mediterranean from this Bronze Age, right? Whether they're raping women or raping men. So it's when you talk about the origins of the mystery, the cult itself, you must realize it's coming out of this, and from this darkness of the rape comes the central pillar that protects the mystery itself, and that is the virgin. You must maintain the virgin as inviolable or you can't shoot the cosmic rift. It's sorry, you can't. The priests haven't figured out a way to do it. It's isn't it weird?
Mhm. So it was being perfected in time, and at some point they were like, okay, man, we have this technology, we have to be able to have some kind of order in our society to protect this technology we're already using for a long time. We get this from another time, and it gets perfected and perfected. And yeah, at some point you need to protect that oracle, that region. This is what I'm understanding. Like trying
Yeah,
to put it in like simple words, let's say,
yeah.
because obviously nothing of this is simple, but
No,
let's understand it
exactly.
in that way, you know? Like
Yeah.
mhm. It had to be done to be able to
Yes.
be using the technology, but for because I can imagine if you have that, you will start to create your own stuff. Somebody will start to create another stuff over there, and they will be doing different mysteries using the same drugs, the same technology, and it could go freaking crazy, I guess. Probably that happened.
It's like a rush to patent the technology or something. They create a mystery and then cover it up so that the clergy is the group that has the ability to make the mystery work. Right? And ultimately it makes sense because ultimately it comes down to one woman's body. That's how delicate the process is. So you're not even going to get oracles if you can't make the biochemistry work. You're not going to end up in that place. So it's something that they're protecting by using a well educated priesthood to be able to conduct and perform. And we don't understand how influential that is, but ultimately realize that they are tying this to something that I don't understand myself, but they are able to draw time together somehow. And there's a lot of the physics that are being examined by the people like the pre-Socratics that have to do with time and the manipulation of time. And an oracle, if you think about it, is just that. Because the oracle is basically telling you what's going to happen to you. It's the ultimate instruction in life. That's why, as we showed in episode one, the question that you ask an oracle is called your history, right? That's what you're bringing them is that inquiry. So somehow they understand the physics of the time and are able to do things that well, they're able to plant seeds that will come to fruition within generations. And I know that our society doesn't build like this at all. I don't know if there's any form of government on the planet that is planting the seeds of the spread of its own freedom that it protects at its core, right? And they did this through oracles, right? In so many generations, so much will happen. I know we talked about that, but it's something that you just can't stay away from.
Got this from hundreds of years that it was coming from Bronze Age. So what I would like to go into after is like if we already understand that this was not originated in this specific geographically area that now we call ancient Greece, like the Aegean, Turkey, and what we know it was, like the whole different parts of Greece at that time, of the Greek culture. Where is this pointing? Like towards where you already said about the Black Sea, but can we talk about like specifics, like specific cultures that we can see in the text, or that is very evident that there is a connection? You already mentioned a bit of that But do you think we can dive into those cultures a bit to understand how
Yeah.
this connection happening?
Yeah. Once again, very straight and direct. Um, Go right back to the drugs and say, who's actually starting to use this stuff, right? Are these Greek speaking peoples? Who are these people? Where are they from? And it just so happens we have the evidence of exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from the east coast of the Black Sea, at the convergence of the four rivers of Eden, right? Um, this this is the place where she who became the first Christ was practicing. Right? Remember how I said we've got to get it through the drugs? That the drugs are the line, the scientific line through the dark cave that we have to hold on to. How can we say where this thing started? I can fart a bunch of nonsense to you and just come up with theories. No, bullshit. What does the evidence point to? The evidence points to one person starting this right, which makes sense because the right is dependent upon your genes. It's dependent upon what your body can produce, right? It's dependent upon your sex. So, to answer your question directly, we can trace it back to the place where we see the first Christ herself actually performing the rite. This is the Bronze Age, Eastern Black Sea. Bronze Age, Eastern Black Sea. And these kingdoms, and they are kingdoms, they're tyrannies. These tyrannical kingdoms are the leading edge of the tech that is pushing, that's enabling this one priestess to emerge, the
Okay,
one Christ.
okay, 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 understand. I'm on. All good.
Let's do it.
I have the choruses, is the evangelic choruses done now. Who had them in the background
Good.
before?
Good. Hey, I speaking of that, I found some Byzantine hymns that will knock your socks off. You'll be surprised to find out how satanic the cult has become in Byzantine, holy songs. Anywho,
Okay, so I want to know it all, man, because we know that the information we have from where this was coming from is from the Greek, which is afterwards, isn't it? So
which is after what?
after, I mean, the information we get about the possible source of this knowledge, ideas, cult, as we're talking about now, like the cult, it was just the Greek, the Greeks themselves were talking about it, isn't it? Like that's why we can infer where it's coming from. And you were saying that we have evidence that where this is coming from. So that will be the Greeks themselves talking about this, isn't it?
Correct. As early as the Mycenaean Greek.
Okay.
So go all the way back to 1500 BC, because that's we're going to have the word for the holy purple that's used in their rites. It appears in text. So
And can we
mm,
go into like a specific people, let's say, or who these people we're talking about? I've heard about I heard about Scythian connection. I heard about this Asia Minor connection also at some other point or at the same time. I don't know. So if you can elaborate in who these people are who is these people we're talking about that we're getting this tech or this first ideas that after becomes the mystery and the whole culture that we're talking about after in the Aegean and
we as as civilized Greek speaking peoples of the Mediterranean, we are getting our mystery right from a Scythian culture that lives in a world of constant change. They are mobile horse tribes that are known for their incredibly strict enforcement of certain social norms, certain customs. For example, get out of here. We don't want you around. So if we catch you here, we're going to kill you. And we may breed with you or eat you. But this is the culture that produces the 12 bodyguards of the first Christ. So when Medea comes out Christing and spreading, so to speak, her ministry of Christing, she's spreading it around villages. She is creating Bacchic choruses by drugging people. When she begins to do this, she doesn't go by herself. She has a bodyguard of 12 Scythian women. And those 12 Scythian women are known for their martial skill as well as their knowledge of drugs. So all of that, again, notice how we're back to the drugs, right? Because that's the anchor, that's the real. That's what's really going on, their use of these drugs. And so this Scythian culture is a horse culture, it's mobile. And everything that the Greek speaking world is writing about these barbarians, because to the Greek speaking world, they are barbarians. They don't speak Greek. That qualifies you as a barbarian. So these barbarians who have this advanced knowledge of the drugs, whose leaders are these terribly despotic women who are performing acts of cruelty that ripple across the Mediterranean to keep everybody in control. And that scares the Greek speaking world. But this is the origin. This type of world where your queen is surrounded by her greatest intelligences is coming from an advanced culture that is encountering a, another advanced culture in the Greek speaking world that at the time is raising an umbrella. The Mycenaean Greek world is raising an umbrella over the Eastern Mediterranean so that civilizations can be planted. And they're only doing this because their oracles are going through these ceremonies where they are receiving instructions from the invisible beings that are around you that you can't see until you're initiated.
Okay.
So the these tribes of Amazonians who are raiding and hustling the Greek world, they're ultimately going to form the policing power of Athens. But for now, in the Bronze Age, they're just delivering to us a form of religion that is some kind of cult. And when I say cult, I mean cultus in Latin is the way that you grow your fields. It's the way that you use nature to produce.
Mm.
The cult that performs the mystery initiation is using nature that is being absorbed through a non Greek speaking world. And that is marking the Greek response. It is creating, it's like fertilizer for Mother Greek herself to grow. So, yeah, it's gorgeous, absolutely.
Well, Ammon, if you don't mind, I would like to go. I know that besides your you're a philologist, you also studied a little bit, or not a little bit. You studied bacteriology, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it? Because of your research. So you think we can go a little bit about what do we know that because I understand that the drugs or the use of nature, let's say, which is we're talking about the same, um, it has is very prominent and it's very important to actually understand for they to understand what they were doing in their own culture. So do we know something about what actually they were using? Like, can we name animals, plants, concoctions, or whatever? Do we know something about that?
Yeah, and that's what's so unfortunate is that it's so broad. So when you say, what were they using
Mhm.
in the Mithraic rite that we have the liturgy of here that talks about what drugs to prepare? Fantastic. We've got a list. We've got a list of plants and of animal toxins right there that we're going to use. Okay. We're going to throw in a little gladiator's liver. Oh, God, that boosts the whole thing. You know what I mean? Ah, so yes, we have all of these substances, and they're all plants and animals that are living in the Mediterranean. They're the local species that they have used over ages. Now, here's what's really going to blow your mind. Um, People who use these drugs and make these concoctions from plants and animal substances, they're using things that don't grow locally, right? So, colchicum, colchis is where Medea's from. And if you've discovered that plant, you know what it can be used for. It can be used for gout under certain circumstances, right? Or you can use it to induce a mania. You can kill with it. There's all sorts of things you can do with it. That's a local drug that she was pioneering. She was known to have pioneered, her family was known to have pioneered aconite, which is terribly, terribly poisonous. It's lethal. There's no reason you're using aconite except to induce like death states. That's why they call it a thanasimon. It's a death inducer. Terrible drug, right? But they're using it locally. But here's the strange thing that'll blow your mind. She's using drugs that are not local. Drugs that you have to get way across the Mediterranean. So the craft of the Bronze Age medical priestly witchcraft, if you want to call it that, it's at such a high level that you and I, the common people, can't do this kind of stuff. And you and I, looking back on it, can we replicate it? We have tons of lists of the different drugs and what counteracts what and what's used by whom.
Mhm.
Right?
And this and this
Um,
but this kept going after also in history, I guess. Like they
yeah,
were actually going and reviewing what they were doing, and they were using that knowledge hundreds of years after. You know what I mean? It
correct,
created a bit. Can you
correct.
elaborate a bit on that connection? That like what we know, I guess, is because of text that was written after. That's what I was
Right,
saying before, isn't it?
right.
Hmm.
Um, what drugs can you use to influence a person's thinking? These are the drugs that the physicians later, as you said, they're writing later. Physicians later, Hippocratic physicians later, are sitting around writing about Dioscorides, the opening of the Roman Empire. Oh, he's sitting around, he's collecting works, he's getting all of his recipes together to show you what goes with what. He's building a theory of how these drugs are interacting. All of that is built upon that earlier technology that we just see the tip of the iceberg of when we look at the purple production in the Mycenaean workshops. They're doing the same thing. They have to come up with words for it. So they are using drugs, for example, that puts you into a different mental state. I have text that I'm bringing just tomorrow about that.
Mhm.
They put you into a completely different mental state. What kind of mental state do you want to be put into? It depends on the drugs that are being used and the way that they're applied. These are not clinics where you walk in and the doctor gives you a prescription and you go and get it. No, this is where you are treated on site using a craft that's far more complex than you can imagine. Just think of it this way. If they are working on changing the human body into a vessel for different types of salvific substances, certain types of drugs that will bring you what they call a salvation. Remember the gospel? Gospel, evangelia, is a word that means the efficacy of the drug you are applying. As a physician, what is that drug combo's gospel? It is salvation. So we're looking at the world in a way that once you start studying how they're using these drugs and its history, um, everything else that we perceive seems absurd. Let me give you one example.
Mhm.
People, when I was in school and coming up through graduate school, the big debate was: are the oracles getting high? And the overwhelming majority said no, but they are recordedly performing these specific actions that look like they're some kind of mind altering, drug induced situation. So we can't ignore them. The very fact that they were debating that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the very fact that they were debating that is a joke. Within 5 minutes, I can show any classicist texts that show how they were using the drugs in the rites. We have this evidence there. It's only because we've come through monism that we've rejected this evidence as evidence. So it's political too. It gets very political. The censorship of what's out there.